This is John Stahl-Wert, and along with my colleagues around the world, we're committed to help men and women make the biggest positive difference they can make through their leadership in the communities that they serve. I want to tell a couple of stories over the next few minutes about the impacts that are made by amazing leaders who are getting good at their craft of leading people. But let me do just a quick little set of reminders on the basics of business and organizational leadership and the purposes of it, because it'll set the stage for a couple of stories I want to share with you. Why do we have businesses? Very simply, the purpose of organized work, whether that's a business or a nonprofit organization or a community organization or whatever it is, the purpose, and this is basic, the purpose of a business is to do something good in the world. It's very simple. You know, we can get confused thinking things like the purpose of a business is to make money. But I can report to you that every extraordinary business I've ever had the privilege of working with, which is making very good profits, is not thinking day to day about the purposefulness of profit. They're thinking about the purposefulness of making a difference, doing something worthwhile, changing something, fixing something, solving something, building something, delivering something that is good for the world, that people need, that's valuable. The purpose of organizational life, purpose of business, is doing something good for others. This is fundamental. Value exchange, we add value in our organizational life, is doing something that's valuable. And if we do something valuable, we get value back because the people that we did it for, the organizations that we helped say, that was very helpful. So rudimentary, but I find I need to review this again and again and again. The purpose of business is doing good things in the world. Secondly, what's the purpose of leadership? The purpose of leadership is to gather the human resources that are surrounding you in that business of doing something worthwhile, such that those human beings make the decision to get aligned with you and to be inspired by what they've been asked to do and to go above and beyond, what's in the job description, to bring their all. Leadership isn't assigning tasks to people and following up to see whether they did the tasks you assigned. That's part of leadership. Leadership is creating the conditions that cause human beings to have all that they need to be able to do, if you want to think about it this way, their own math and say, you know what, I'm adding up why this organization exists, what kind of caliber a human being my boss is, and whether I like and respect that person, whether I'm cared for, whether what we do is worth me caring about. Leadership is about creating the conditions in which human beings do the math and say, you know what? This is more than a job. This is more than a job description. This is more than a paycheck. What else can I do to help? Anywhere on earth where outperforming organizations shine in their sector above their competitors, there are leaders creating the conditions that cause human beings to do more than they have to. Because, of course, human beings bringing their best to work beyond what we leaders are smart enough to tell them to do is always what makes excellence in the things that we do to make a difference in the world. And so how does serving leadership impact all of that? Serving leadership is that body of disciplines, which I've reviewed at various times as I've shared in this format, that body of behavioral disciplines that we've benchmarked globally, which are the practices that cause workplace environments to be human environments, inspiring, engaging, aligning environments that cause teams to work well together and that causes human beings to bring more than they must. So that's just a quick little review. The purpose of a business is to do something worth doing. The purpose of leadership is to get human beings woken up and aligned and engaged and inspired. And the purpose of the Serving Leader tools is for us to learn how to do that. Now, I'll review that again and again because I need that review, and I find that we leaders need that review. So let me tell you a story or two. One of the things we do in our training work in Center for Serving Leadership is we drill into an area that we call Raise the Bar. I've talked about this before. We've identified 5 areas of leadership practice and specific behaviors of leaders who get good at those areas, 5 areas of leadership practice that we improve our skill in so that our workplace environments, our organizational culture is high performing, so that our workplace culture is a place that brings human beings into full engagement. One of them is Raise the Bar, and I want to just tell 2 quick stories today in the Raise the Bar area. Raise the Bar focuses on values, not that values are important for us to live out in business. Quite frankly, just about everybody I talk with on earth already knows that. And if I may sidebar, if you go to a leadership training workshop and the person stands in front of you for 2.5 hours and lectures you that values matter, why don't you walk out? Because we know that. We know that values matter. The question is not, is it important for us to lead by values? The question is how to do that. How to do that? Okay, good. I need to understand my values. I need to lead according to values. I need to create a workplace condition in which people come to work and are like, wow, they practice what they preach here. You know, they said it. Of course, every leader says good stuff. And so I didn't believe it when they said it. But I've been watching them, and they actually do what they say. The gap between knowing and doing, between saying and practicing, has been closed here. That's what we need to learn. How do we practice it? And so I'm going to tell you 2 quick stories of people we had the great honor of walking with over time in their work. One is a businessman, one's a pastor. And particularly on this matter of Raise the Bar, learning how to get your values to be clear, learning how to get your values to be practiced, and learning how to get your people to trust that it's actually true, that it's not bull, but it's true. First one is a friend in eastern Pennsylvania who I started working with maybe 8 years ago, who runs a construction firm. And in both of these stories, I'm not going to give the names. I'm just going to share the specifics. What happened with this company is they were struggling with having the growth of the company cause some breakdown in the standards of the company. Anything that happened close to the owner was right, because the owner is a man of values. And anything that happened at a distance from the owner tend to degrade in rightness, for lack of more sophisticated language. When it got further than his arm's length, things would happen that weren't in alignment with what he stood for. And so we really drilled in to Raise the Bar together. We went through the exercises that we teach. And I'm not going to go through that here. I just want to tell you a story about outcomes, about a result. It was 2 years later, I was visiting in this friend's home, and he told me this story, which I'm going to tell you now. The time of year was spring, and there was a huge project that they had won about 125 miles away from headquarters. This is a relatively rural company with maybe 60 or 70 employees. And they had won a very large job as part of a much more vast construction project in a nearby city. And so what that meant is that every day, his crews, he had crews dispersed onto multiple jobs, but those crews assigned to that city would get up super early in the morning, get in their trucks, drive a great distance, get to the job, work all day, drive back home. And this job was going to go on for about 18 months. So this was a significant project in the midst of many subcontractors contributing to a huge building project. And at this point in the work that my friend had done, they had embedded the values, and they had cascaded those values, as we like to put it, out to the fingertips of the organization, and it had become real. It had become real. And so they're working away, and my friend's employees are extraordinary. I mean, they're clean. I'm talking about talk, and they're clean, and I'm talking about work site, and they're fast, and they're industrious. They have hustle, and they're excellent. And so, his 8-10 men on that crew as part of a bigger project stood out. And it was a few weeks into the project that a union boss from that city came to the supervisor on that site. Now, my friend, the owner, is a great distance away in his office, knows nothing about it. And so in this work site, the union supervisor comes to my friend's supervisor and says, I like the way your men work, and I know where you're coming from. Wow, you're going to be doing this for a long time, back and forth, back and forth. How much do your men get paid an hour? And the supervisor answered, they get X. And from the economic standards of the more rural community, where my friend's business is, it was good money. And the union boss said, I can triple it. I can triple it. And you're going to be down here for a year and a half. Imagine the impact of those kinds of dollars. I need all your guys on my crew, and I can triple their wages. And they're going to have a long run of making good money for their families. Now, that was the scenario, and it's not uncommon. These scenarios happen where we think everything is going well, and then suddenly we realize we've lost a good person or we've lost a good crew, and we weren't prepared for it. But the story didn't end up that way. Let me tell you what happened. The supervisor of my friend stared back at the supervisor in the city and said, you see the fellow over there? And there was one of his workers maybe 15, 20 yards away working away. He said, let me tell you a story about him. Said, I'm going to go story inside story. I'm just going to give that man the name Jason. He said, Jason's been working for the company for a while, and Jason has a Down syndrome son that was his life. Jason loved him so much. They were so close, 7-year-old boy. And he said, back just before Thanksgiving, Jason came to my boss and said, we just got a horrible medical diagnosis, and my son has weeks and at most months to live. I just wanted to let you know. And my boss said to him, listen, we really care for you, Jason. Keep us posted. What do you need? A couple of weeks later, Jason came back. Now it's early December, and said, boss, I am not doing well. I'm not doing well. And he said, you're going to see it. And I just wanted to tell you, you're going to see it on my production numbers. I am not functioning well, and I don't know what to do. I need the job, but here's what's going on. I go to the job. I try to do my work. I work for an hour or two or three, and then it overwhelms me, and I run around behind the building and hide and cry. And I'm just not functioning. I think I'm kind of falling apart here. And I just wanted you to know before you see my numbers, I wanted you to know what's going on. And my boss said, now, a supervisor of my friend is talking to a supervisor in this city. Said, my boss said to Jason, let me think about this. I'll get back to you tomorrow. I really want to think about you in this situation. And he went back to his team. My boss went back to his HR people and said, what are we going to do about this? And the HR chief said, hey, boss, we worked through our values last year. Isn't that our true north? Isn't that our tuning fork? Let's get them out. We say those are our values. They should guide this question. So they got them out, and one of them was, care for families, and one of them was work-life balance. And they said, all right, we say that is our value. And so let's let's live out our values here, boss. And so they talked a little bit, and the HR chief said, I got an idea. Why don't I go to all the men? They all get good paid vacation, and see if I can gather in donations of paid vacation from the guys for Jason. See what we can get for them. And my boss said, that's a good idea. And overnight, the HR leader did that, came back to the boss the next day, the owner, and said, I got 6 weeks donated. Some guys gave a day, some guys gave a couple of days, and a few guys just shocked the HR chief because they didn't really know what was in these guys' hearts, and they gave Jason a week. And he said, I got 6 weeks of donated paid vacation for Jason. And he said that our owner said to him, that is fantastic. Go talk to Jason and tell him that the guys donated 6 weeks of their own vacation, and the company is going to match that. He said, add another week to it. Tell him he's got a quarter year, and we want him to be with his boy. And so that's what happened. That message was delivered. Jason went home. He was with his son through December. He was with his boy through Christmas. He was with his boy in the week between Christmas and New Year. And in the week after New Year, his boy died. And then there was the funeral, and another 2 weeks passed. And so all in, about 6 weeks passed, and Jason came back to our owner and said, I need to come back to work. He said, I know I've got another 6 weeks. So I want to give it back. I want to give the weeks back. But I'm not doing well. I'm sitting at home. I need to get to work. I need to do something. And so could I just come back now? I don't want to take the rest of the quarter off. And he said, my owner said to him, no. Yes, come back to work, of course. Come on, jump in with the crew and the guys, and we really would love to have you back. But you're not given the weeks back. That was a gift. You have medical bills. Come into the office Monday, cash out the remaining weeks, and because you got bills on you, and the guys really wanted to do that for you, and the company wanted to do that for you, and so take care of some bills. We really want to just pay that out to you, but yeah, come on back to work. And so my friend's supervisor looked the scalper's supervisor in the eye and said, you're going to triple the wages of my guys. That's what you said. All right, that's interesting. That's a lot of money. But you just heard my story. So here's my question for you. Will your company treat my men the way my owner treats my men? I want you to hear that. The potency of leaders who understand that their job is to build a workplace environment where human beings realize that they're being asked to do good work, the work they do matters, they are cared for, they can trust their boss because when the boss says nice slogan-y things like, we care for our workers, it's true. This is not a small matter in the grand scheme of things at all. The power and the impact of good leadership at times is literally immeasurable. Let me tell you a second story. One of my colleagues, Dr. Nelson Okanya, who is doing a great deal of work across Asia and Africa in quite poor nations, was working with a Ugandan bishop. And this Ugandan bishop, by the way, has now been trained and certified and is doing training himself. Through Center for Serving Leadership, we do training inside companies across the world on the commercial side, and we train and certify trainers to do that work themselves inside their companies. And then our partner nonprofit organization called World Serving Leaders does the same thing in the poorest nations of the world. And so Dr. Okanya was working with a bishop in Uganda and doing the training with him, and he had a large group working together, and then training and certifying this man to go ahead and do the training himself across his world in Uganda. And he had planted a lot of churches. He had recruited a lot of church planters. he had stood up churches in poor communities to do spiritual and economic and infrastructure development of those communities across Uganda. And he shared with my colleague Nelson that there were problems. He said, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. He said, I pick people really as carefully as I can to be these church planners, these people who, like entrepreneurs, start a new church and pastor that church and preach the sermons. And he said, I'm not picking well. He said, I have a lot of church planners who aren't behaving right. And, they got ego issues, or they make it about themselves, or I don't know that I 100% trust what they're doing. He said, what am I doing wrong? And my colleague Nelson said, well, come through the training and let's evaluate. And they came to raise the bar. Values, the importance of values. We need to have skill. We need to be good at our craft, whatever that is. But values is foundational. And at the end of that day, that bishop came over to Nelson and said, I figured it out. He said, I have been picking my church planters. Think about this through a business lens of, my division chiefs. I've been picking them on the basis of their skill talking. My thought was these are preachers, so they need to be able to get up in front and say stuff and hold people's attention. That's how I've been picking them. And he said, it never occurred to me to select them on the basis of values. And here's what I want to say about this. We can look at any leader on earth who is learning an important lesson, and if we're an inch ahead of them in our growth curve, we could say, well, that's obvious. I mean, are you kidding me? Of course, that's obvious. But I promise you, these things aren't obvious until you learn them. We fail to understand it, and we fail to understand it, and then one day we understand it, and then it's obvious. It's like, of course, when I pick a key person, I might not take the resume that is just unbelievable and incredible and look at all that experience at face value. I might take someone who's got a little more learning and growing to do, but fits our values. This person is an extraordinary expert in their craft and a jerk, a poisoner of morale, an egomaniac. This person has some room to grow. They can do the job, and they're going to need to get better at their craft, but they are aligned with what we're building here. A workplace where people feel like human beings and know that they're cared about and know that they can trust us because when we say things, we mean them. That's the person I'm going to choose. And so, this bishop who had the awakening moment that his selection criteria was at the root of his problem, because he wasn't scrutinizing and examining people on values. Will this person fit with our culture of values, integrity and respect and kindness and responsibility, whatever those values are? That learning was the learning he needed to make. And this is the way for all of us. We learn the things when we can. The impact of values. I've just given you two little stories, a friend in eastern Pennsylvania and a friend of my colleague, Nelson Okanya. I've not yet met this man in Uganda, where a small shift in disciplined practice around a part of our leadership calling changed everything. The price tag, that price tag is in money, profit, reputation, customer retention, and many other things. The price tag of not leading well is huge. And in the value space, the impact of getting that right is immeasurable. Our job as business and organizational leaders is to do good things in the world, do stuff that people need and do it well for them so that the things that they came to us for, they receive and they realize that was good, which causes them to tell other people about it and helps us to grow. The job of leadership is to create the workplace conditions that human beings need so that they can bring more of themselves and get aligned with what we are and realize that this is more than a job, more than a paycheck, more than a salary per hour. This is a place where I can really flourish. And in our work in teaching those skills, what we do and what gives us such great joy and pleasure is transfer those disciplines so that the organizations that we serve can do amazing things in good for the communities they serve. I want to encourage you. I don't know where you are in your learning journey. You've learned a bunch of stuff. You wouldn't be sitting listening to this if you hadn't. You've banked a bunch of lessons. You've built a bunch of skills. What you used to not understand, you now understand. And I can tell you with all authority, being 66 years old and still having a vast field of learning I need to do, that learning never ends. I just want to encourage you on that today as you seek to make the organization you serve useful to the world and seek to cause the culture in your organization to be good for human beings, to lean in, take the lessons as they come. If there are ways that we can help you, we'd be honored to do it. Be encouraged in the impact you make on people as a leader. Be encouraged in the impact your organization makes for the world.
For more information about the Center for Serving Leadership, visit our website at centerforservingleadership.com.